It's yours.
All right, thanks a lot, Ed. Hopefully a couple more people jump on, but right now I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 9:01. Sandy, are you good?
Kim, can you hear me?
I can see you too. You're fine. You're upright. Like, leave your camera. You're good.
I can't. It's going, everything is going ping, 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 and no pictures. I saw you for a few minutes and that's it. I don't know what's wrong.
Well, we can hear you. So if you can hear me, then I'd say we get started and you just picture us all looking really good on this Saturday morning. So I'm going to take the roll. Michael Brault?
Yes.
Bradford Inman is not here. Dorothy Jack-Boney, not here. Michael New?
Here.
Claire Murray?
Here.
Norma Smith is, oh, connecting as we speak. Norma, I was just getting to you in the roll, so if you want to indicate that you're here.
I'm here.
Sandra Restall.
Oh,
Sandy
dear.
Connie. Oh, there you are. Great. And Richard Williams is not here. All right. So moving into our new business, 4.1, approval of the July 18th, 2020 meeting minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 18th, 2020?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 18th, 2020.
Thank you, Claire. Do I have a second?
Second.
You. All in favor? Show of hands, please. I actually can't see everyone, so I'm going to take a Mike. You're all.
Yes.
Claire Murray.
Yes.
Norma Smith.
Yes.
Sandra Restall. Sandy, do you approve the minutes?
I can only hear click, 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 click.
Ed, is there a call-in number that you can, Sandy, there might be a call-in number outside of this.
Madam Chair, it would have been with the email on the call.
It was with the, yeah, there's a call-in number, Sandy, in your email if you want to give that a try. And Michael, you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to say that that was approved with, I don't know how we want to say Sandy is, didn't vote.
Yeah, you've still got a majority vote.
Yeah.
It's because it's a majority of the people who are here, so.
Right. So they pass.
Yep.
So the report from the chair in follow-up to council presentation on July 20th, 2020. I will say that we learned that trying to condense something this important probably isn't for the best. I feel like it would have been a huge advantage to us and to the voters if we had been able to present this to the council outside of voting, let them give feedback on, a lot of it was on terminology, maybe breaking apart requests. And so I feel as if that would have really helped us. That being said, because Ann Dixon, I'm going to give her credit where it's due, made sure that we were able to present last week instead of this week. We have one more opportunity to put the amendments that we feel should be put back before the council one last time. You know, it was an interesting opportunity to be able to do this. And I would say that, you know, Dave, a huge part of today would be lawyer the heck out of this. You know, make sure that we're not putting anything forth that's redundant or already, whether it's redundant within the charter or within the rules and regs. And if something truly is not legally able to go in our charter, you know, kind of don't tell us what we can put forward, but if there's a true reason why it wouldn't make sense, just feel free to speak freely on that.
Okay, thank you.
This is kind of for discussion only, but if anyone wanted to make any sort of feedback, that's fine. I think we could all sit over coffee, tea, beer, wine, whatever we do, and maybe lament, but instead I would say let's try to move forward with what we can.
Agreed.
Kim,
Yes.
can I just say, because I was there, and I just want to, I guess, reiterate to focus on those things that we feel have a chance to go through. I
agree.
mean, I think that they'll be willing to give us a bone. I think the school committee, if we leave the wording as, what's his name?
James Pearson.
Pearson. Mr. Pearson suggested leave it clean and leave it that way, because when I really looked back, I realized that he is correct. There would be a 2-year gap because of the way the elections are held. The school committee was extremely supportive of it. So I think that that's something, if we put in clean, I just think we need to focus on those things that we feel have a chance. I think they've heard, particularly the school committee, has heard that the intent is just to hear the voter and have a little information put on there. And they certainly indicated that if we can't get the town council to put it in the charter, that they are willing to add it to their bylaws. So I just want to focus on those things that we actually have a chance of getting through.
I agree with you. I think that especially on behalf of Deb Bacon and Dixon, just to point out that more often than not, they were speaking on how we could change wording, and
Right.
they're possibly being able to approve something in multiple cases, that we could move some of these forward. And as long as it is just semantic and not changing our intent,
Right.
I think that would be a great idea. So I think we got a lot of feedback that, even though it was hard to hear all in one fell swoop in that 2-hour session of time with my face directly on camera,
Yeah.
I think it was good feedback that we got in many instances. So like I said, I think we had 2 months to do this in, and more time probably would have been really beneficial, but let's see what we can get done this morning
Absolutely.
to put back in front of them. And then as far as that goes, we move on to 4.3, if everyone is fine with that. If anyone had further discussion, please speak out.
Kim, I missed the beginning. That term limits, is that going to go through or no?
So I'm going to let Dave speak on some of this because he made the changes, but I think what we're going to try to put forward again on the term limits is keep the 2 4-year terms, but remove sections that say 2-year wait before going on to another body of government. So that already happens based on the fact that we stagger our elections. And I think one member pointed out, like, Ann Dixon left the school committee to go on to the town council in the middle of her term, and was concerned that maybe that's what we were intending to change with that 2-year rule. But I don't think our committee ever discussed that. So I don't think that was our intent really, or at least that wasn't our thought of intent. So making it so you can do the 2 4-year terms seems like it's sufficient for what we were hoping for. Norma?
Can I say something? Yeah, I mentioned it in early discussion, how that would affect somebody jumping ship, or whatever you want to call it, from one school committee to town council, and it was brought up, but I don't think we ever really addressed it. Because it does, how does that affect somebody that's, say, like her, going from one committee, from school committee to town council, or anyone else? And I remember bringing it up, and a lot was talked about, but it was brought about.
So I guess that's where we have some discussion is, if someone wants to move from one to the other in the middle of a term, first of all, they haven't broken any rules of the 2 4-year terms on that particular council. So I don't think that was our intent to take that opportunity away. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Or comment?
I just like to comment. I think I think the idea of someone switching midterm like Counselor Dixon did, you know, that's that person's constitutional right to do that. And I think that's where the pushback was coming from, both on the school committee side and on the council side. So, you know, I certainly, obviously I've been at all these meetings, so I know what the intent of this committee was in drafting that provision. I think that with regards to term limits, given the feedback from the council meeting, the feedback from the school committee, I think both sections 301 and 304 should just set a maximum of no more than 2 4-year terms consecutively as a term limit, and then leave it at that. That's really the essence of the feedback that we got from both the council and the school committee. And I think, frankly, that comports with an individual's, you know, constitutional right to run for office. That's all I wanted to say, Chair.
Okay. You know, I think it's still, you know, when I think of my intent, it's allowing for other people to join an open seat instead of having that. If someone keeps running, people seem less likely to join in the process. So I think it still goes along with that intent, even if people move from one seat to another, one council to another. So I would be fine with the 4 years, but would love to hear discussion if anyone feels otherwise, and would also like to hear, Dave, would you mind reading the new language just so people can know what they are discussing and would later be voting on?
Sure. This would be the same language both for 3.01 and 4.01. And it's really just inserting term limits language. The insert would read as follows. Any person who is elected to the town council or any person who is elected to school committee shall serve no more than 2 4-year terms consecutively. Thereafter, he or she shall be ineligible to serve as a town council or school committee member until the passage of 4 years. And that would be it. That's the extent of the modification.
So putting them in the same.
No, I read them together because.
You read them together.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's not how
I was
read
trying
it.
to condense. So,
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So yeah, as long as they would have to stop for 4 years on the committee they were on, I feel it fits the intent. But any further discussion on that?
Hey.
No, I think if we have any shot of getting it through, I think that's clean and it's relatively close to what they have now. And the support that I seem to feel on both sides was, yes, they agreed to the term limits. It was that language that was, you know, muddying things up.
Mm-hmm. So would we also be fine? It's still a new set of voters. Say someone moved to one section of one part of town from another. They were already 6 years in and ran for council in their new district and would have 4 more years. I mean, I still feel you're being put in front of a new set of voters. So I don't think that harms our intent either. Just looking at different caveats of it to make sure that we're not missing anything. But I, under that circumstance, would also be fine and would like to hear if anyone has any other feedback. Michael, please feel free to speak out as we can't see you, and I don't want you to.
Yep, I will.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So it sounds as if we feel that even limiting the wording in this, it still carries the intent that we as a committee were hoping to move forward with. So if there's no further discussion, I am going to call for a motion on, Dave, should we read it again? I want to stick to.
Sure. What I'll do is.
Do them one at a time.
Yeah, we'll do it one at a time. So the first motion would be a motion to modify section 3.01 to edit the term limit language as discussed. And the term limit language would be, if approved, will read term limits, period. Any person who is elected to the town council shall serve no more than 2 4-year terms consecutively. Thereafter, he or she shall be ineligible to serve as a town council member until the passage of 4 years.
All right. May I get a motion to approve the new language?
So move as Dave presented.
Mike New, a second?
Second.
Michael Brawl. And I am going to do a roll call. I'm in favor. Michael Brawl,
Yes.
Claire Murray,
Yes.
Norma Smith,
Yes,
and Michael New.
Yes.
It seems we have lost Sandra Restall. Are you on the phone, Sandy? Okay, but I think we are fine. We still have a quorum.
It's still okay. Yeah.
That's 5 yeses. And that motion passes.
So the next motion would be a motion to approve the edits to section 4.01 as discussed to the term limits, and it would read as follows. Term limits, period. Any person who is elected to the school committee shall serve no more than 2 4-year terms consecutively. Thereafter, he or she shall be ineligible to serve as a school committee member until the passage of 4 years.
Can I get a motion to approve under the new language that David just read?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Claire. Second,
I'll second it.
Mike Brawl. I approve. Michael Brawl,
Yes.
Claire Murray,
Yes.
Norma Smith,
yes,
and Michael New.
Yes.
That motion passes as well. Should we move on to 3.15? Is that the next?
Yes.
So 3.15 is procedure, edits to address changes to public comment recommendations, reading motions, clarification to exempt executive sessions and our special meetings. So I do feel like this change in language changes our intent. I like that we're putting in, making it concrete in our charter that we do have to have public comment. I still wish we could have it before a vote. And I know, and kind of looking for Dave's input here as well as the rest of the committee. I had one town council member say that the reason that that would not be necessary is because of how much time they have to go over the packet, and they've put a lot of thought and a lot of due diligence into it. I had another council member say, I just got this on Friday and I haven't had time to really look at it. So those two seem to work counter to each other for me, and I still feel public comment before a vote could be important. Solidifying public comment at all is fantastic, and if that's enough for our committee to move forward, then I wouldn't disagree. I just still feel as if that comment before a vote might encourage more people to come forward and come to meetings and give their opinions. And I know I'm going to be stirring a pot by mentioning this right now, but there's a possibility that the town council is going to vote that there will no longer be a financial town meeting. Which I'm not saying I'm for or against. I am just saying public comment could become more important before vote as we move forward. So that's my 2 cents. And like I said, I am not even positive I'm correct on my assumption there, but I saw some information to that effect.
So
How would that get approved? The financial meeting, or not meeting, but the proposal budget?
It's on the
I
ballot.
can
What it is is
I can
the-
address that.
Oh,
Please.
please do, David.
So there's a proposed charter amendment that is so the council can also propose charter amendments in addition to this committee. So a number of councilors have proposed amendments to the charter. They're going to be heard as well on Tuesday evening. One of those amendments proposes to eliminate the financial town meeting and the all-day referendum in favor of the council preparing, approving the budget and the appropriation. As an example, that's done as a matter of course in most of your bigger cities and most of the smaller communities have been trending away in recent years from a financial town meeting. That's, you know, obviously I'm not saying whether that's a good idea or not, but one of the charter proposals on for Tuesday is elimination of the financial town meeting process.
So Dave,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Dave. Where's the transparency in that?
There isn't
There
any.
isn't.
I think it's all put before us at town council meetings and available on the website, and we get to look at the information and we vote for a town council. The town council votes on the budget.
Right. Well, that's at least the proposal. The transparency aspect of it, I understand your concern. I can tell you, and only because occasionally I staff these meetings. The budget process in Coventrty and frankly in any town is a much longer process than most people realize, because you have the departments that funnel their budget proposals to the sometimes budget committees and certainly to staff. And so, the budget unfolds many months prior to it actually coming to the council for a final vote or the voters for a final vote. So I think the process and the sort of the transparency of it will still be retained. The direct voter input, I think, is what would change with elimination of the financial town meeting and the all-day referendum. And as it is now, line item amendments are not allowed to the budget. You can either vote the budget up or the budget down. So in the past couple of years, there have been charter changes that have impacted on how the budget process unfolds in Coventrty.
So the vehicle for input would be at the town council meetings.
Yes.
Or to your counselor via the contact information that you have.
Mhm.
But, David, if I may interject, we currently begin the process in November. So here we are, July, and we're still moving forward on this. We're 8 months, 9 months. This is almost getting to the point now that it's a year round, especially when that budget is rejected. This one's running a little bit later than normal because of COVID and we postponed. But even on a good day, we're talking a 6-7 month period that this runs through by doing it the way we do. And then when it gets rejected, we're starting again, and there's another month to 6 weeks at least that it takes to get it back into the next vote. So it's extremely time consuming for everybody, for all departments. I just wanted to add that in for everybody.
Thanks, Ed.
This should guarantee more participation.
You'd think.
There won't be 10 people at the meetings anymore.
Well, and even, I think it was when we had a financial town meeting, and I apologize that I started this digression and I'm keeping it going. Less than 600 people voted on the budget at the financial town meeting, and now less than 10% vote on the budget at an all-day referendum. So
That's somebody else talking.
If I may, Madam Chair, I'd just like to go through section 3.15 and the, at least the edits that I made following Monday night's council meeting.
Thank you for bringing me back, Dave.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So a couple of council, actually, I think all council members had expressed some concern that the council's rules and the order of business does take into account getting items on the agenda. And I think the council felt that a little constrained by the language of our initial proposal. And certainly there was a question by making public comment a universal component of all council meetings. That did raise the question of what if you had a council meeting that was convened purely for an executive session purpose? That is to say, a council meeting where, because of an emergency matter or a personnel matter or something related to litigation or collective bargaining, the council was getting together, but the public did not have, in other words, there was no public business to take place at those type of meetings. And I think the council comments suggested that if the committee here were going to require a public comment section on all council meetings, that we should carve out those meetings that are convened solely for executive session purposes, which I did put in the proposal. The other comment of the requirement of having motions read and repeated, they indicated that they do that already. And the issue of having any council member have the prerogative to put anything on an agenda, again, the comments from the council were that generally that happens anyway. Even if there happens to be a meeting where a councilor requested an item come to the agenda, if the length of the agenda were not sufficient to allow that business to take place at that meeting, the comment was they would put it on a future meeting. And it seemed that the councilors agreed that that was not a particular issue. At least that was my recollection, Madam Chair. So that's why I had circulated the proposal for 3.15 to focus on all council meetings except those convened for an executive session shall have a provision and an opportunity for public comment. And you'll see that also reflected later on when we discuss 14.30. I mirrored the language for that. I understand, Kim, what you're suggesting about having the public comment go on for each agenda item, and the committee is certainly within your right to vote that in. I took that out only based on the comments I heard Monday night, but it can be put back in at your discretion.
I know most of us were on the call on Monday and would love to hear feedback that you may have. Anyone? Oh, sorry, Sandy, did you want to?
I'm on now. It seemed like the things that the council was saying, if it's not about just going our way, they were already being done. Or if we put in, like we're talking about now, this particular part of it, the addition, it's not going to fly. That's what I get from being at the meeting.
Do you feel like doing just, so not every town council president, from what I understand, has allowed for public comment. Our current town council does allow for that. So with just solidifying public comment, does everyone feel that this is still important enough to move forward with? And Norma?
Yes, I remember a while back, public comment used to be at the beginning and it was pushed to the back. The council changed that. So as long as it's saying it has to give the opportunity of public comment, the council will put it wherever that particular council wants it to be. It doesn't have to stay at the end, because it used to be at the beginning.
Right. They could change the placement of that.
Right.
The school committee, for instance, allows public comment after each agenda item. I still think it's important to solidify it, like I said, just because past town councils haven't allowed for public comment. And I would be willing to move forward with this as it reads, but just want to give one more opportunity for additional feedback.
I think that maybe we should, I would support going forward with it just because, as you said, right now, they have allowed for the public comment. They're not going to, 3 of them are leaving, possibly 4. It just solidifies that future town council will continue to do the same. Whether they put it at the beginning or at the end or in the middle or before, at least it allows for that public comment.
And just because I can't see Mike before you go, David, Michael New, just to make sure you don't have.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you, Kim, that we should push it forward. Let them make that decision and go on the record.
And Dave, you had wanted to give some additional.
I just wanted to add, I think to Claire's comment, I think that is reflective of the manner in which the council operates anyway. In other words, if this committee's desire is to ensure that public comment is part of every meeting, I think it is the council's prerogative to put it where it wants.
Right.
And councils can differ on that. And so if there aren't any other comments, I'll read the motion as proposed, but I didn't know if you had something else to add, Chair.
No, just Claire, I think only 2 are definitely leaving, possibly up to 4. Because they're not running, only 2 aren't running again, from what I understand. Not an important, just wanted to make clear that I don't think 3 are leaving. David, please read the motion.
Sure. So this is a motion to amend section 3.15 as discussed at the council meeting on July 20th and as edited following that meeting and as discussed a little bit further today. The motion would be as follows. This is the one section that would be added to the language of 3.15. In order to afford the greatest level of public participation in the business of the town of Coventrty, all council meetings, except those convened solely for executive session purposes, shall have on the agenda a provision and opportunity for public comment.
Can I make a motion to amend 3.15 as read by Attorney DiAgostino? Can I hear a motion?
So moved as they've explained it.
Thank you, Mr. New. Second?
Second.
Sandy, thank you. So all in favor say aye.
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 Oh, sorry. I'm going to do that again. I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to do it one at a time, a roll call vote. So Kimberly Shockley, aye. Michael Burrell?
Yes.
Claire Murray?
Yes.
Norma Smith?
Yes.
Sandra Westall?
Yes.
And Michael New.
Yes.
Okay, great. So 3.15 passes as amended. Moving on to 4.07, I believe that's the next in our packet. And that is the powers and duties of the school committee. I'm not sure if it's in our packet, but I will say, I feel like a lot of the feedback we got is that some of these things happen, and the way that the charter already reads, the school committee has to follow the guidance of the town council. So if the town council were to ever ask them to do this, they would have to.
I think it's only once a year though, Kim. They have to do it.
Well, once a year, I think twice a year, the school
Is it?
committee gives a financial update to the town council. But if I understand correctly from the email from Mr. Pearson, if they were to ask for it more, that would become, they would have to do it more. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it should be a requirement because I've been going to the meetings for years and I never heard from the school committee before, but they're doing it now, which is good, but that should be a requirement.
And then I guess the second question is if people agree that it should be more part of their rules and regulations that they have, or if there should be something under the charter. Because the feedback I received is that it should fall under their rules and regulations. So I have to admit that, you know, I don't know the answer to that question. But David, I'm going to go let you lawyer that.
Okay, so thank you. Again, I apologize for interrupting.
No, please.
You did indicate that I could early on, so
I
I'm
did.
taking the prerogative to do that. I have, again, based on the feedback from the town council meeting on the 20th and based on the feedback from the administrators at the school department as well as Mr. Pearson on behalf of the school committee, I
Which in
think
fairness,
that
he said he wasn't speaking on behalf of the school committee.
that's right. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That's right. He did indicate that. But I think that the much like we will talk about when we talk about 5.04 with the town manager, a lot of this reporting is already done, and it's done at levels that it's done at the administration level. In other words, between the school department business office and the town finance department, there is regular communication about financial matters taking place. And I think that the proposal, this committee's discussion about including a section of 4.7 was designed from the standpoint of trying to ensure greater levels of transparency. However, just because something is not promoted doesn't mean that it's not available. And I think that's really the feedback that we got from the, and I did have a conversation with the superintendent of schools regarding this matter. And I'm not speaking for him, but there is a flow of information that comes from the school to the town, and it is a regular flow of information. That information is available to the public. It's not kept from the public. However, for reasons that relate to more of, the business of a town council meeting or the business of a school committee meeting, some of that information is glossed over or not focused on. So I think that this amendment to 4.7, while well-intentioned, does go beyond the scope of it really tells them how to do what they're already doing. And in that sense, it's redundant. And I think that the intention of the committee and the committee members has been made clear, which is the people want more information. The people want more, and I'm going to use that word transparency, but it's not really transparency. It's that I think the people want access to more of the information that's already being produced. I think when you use the word transparency, it assumes that something is taking place outside of the public view, and that's not the case with a lot of this financial information. It may be the case that it's not all put on the website, or it's not all completely and thoroughly discussed at a meeting, but the information is there, and I don't think there's any desire on anyone's part to hide it or obfuscate it. So I think the proposal to 4.7, I think it really should be withdrawn. I think it's already taking place, and I think this committee's statement of requesting increased transparency, it should be heard by the town council. I know it was heard by the town council, and it should be heard by the school committee. And I would hope that those bodies find a way to take what they're already doing and try to get a further dissemination of it.
Yes, Ed?
Madam Chair, I don't know if anyone's aware of the transparency portal that the state has up, where we are required quarterly to provide all of that data, and it goes up to the state from both the muni side as well as the school side. And it's up there and it's available to anybody and everybody. I mean, we can put a link on our website if that might help, if help for people. I mean, it's been put out there a lot about it. I just don't. So it is there. That data that people are looking for is already out there and mandated by state law that we put out.
Yeah, and I agree with Attorney D'Agostino that I don't think personally, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee, that there's no transparency and that the information doesn't exist. I just think that the average person who votes on the budget, if they knew where to look, wouldn't necessarily know how to read it. And that's even the above average person who votes on the budget. You know, it's a lot of information. It's hard to understand a budget if you're not in that field. And so I was not expecting the question and spoke, I hope, on behalf of the committee when I said it's really the voters that we're looking to get this information to, and would still love a way where there could be an easily, just a readable, straightforward way to get information to voters. And it might be outside of what we're doing here on this committee. Yes, Claire.
I get where you're coming from, Kim. I really do. You know, ideally, the voters, the people in the community would pay more attention. And I get that you want the information out there and everything, but in all honesty, I have to agree with Mr. Pearson and a lot of other people on these committees, while I may not always agree with them, that there is transparency. Everything is there.
Nope, I agree.
If you make the time, and you can't force people to make the time. You know, this younger generation is all about social media. If they spent as much time looking at these things, attending the meetings, there's the meeting to attend. If you can't attend, you can go back and you can look at it at your leisure. Instead of being on social media and complaining and getting bits of information, you can get it. And no matter how much you make the council or the school committee put out, if they're not interested, you're not going to make them interested. The school committee, in fairness to them, I think they got the point. For me, I don't need all of that stuff. What I wanted to see when I went to the school town council meetings was the school committee come forward, not with just, you know, the unified team, one award. Those are all good things to pass on to the people. I wanted to see them come to the town council meeting and really express when they had the computer hack. Those little things that come up that are not just the little tidbits of the greatness that's going on, but the actual, you know, hurdles that they face sometimes. And I think that the school committee the other night totally understood it. Yeah. And they actually said that they would try to put that in their bylaws and agreed that a school committee person should maybe come and do a little bit more. But to ask them to do everything that we did in the beginning, all that reporting, they already do so much. And it's just duplicating work that if people really want to educate themselves on, it's all there. It's all there. And I know your ideal. You think that you're going to get more people, but we went from town council to all-day referendum. How many more people did you get, really? I go on and I look at this social media and they say, oh, what do you mean there's a meeting? Nobody told me there's a meeting. Well, there is a meeting. There's meetings every month with with the town council, with the school committee. It's there, but you can't force them to look, you know? And old people, we're getting used to it, and we still look at the newspaper and we talk word of mouth. We talk, you know? I agree with your ideals. I think it's wonderful. You are you're a prime example. I met you at the town council meeting last year before the budget, and you admitted that you had not paid attention, but that you were going to commit yourself to doing it. And you are one of the few people I met who did do that. So it can be done. I don't mean to be on a soapbox. I really don't, but
Heck, I'm enjoying this conversation, Claire.
I just feel like it's there if you take the time.
No, and I agree that it's there, but I will say it's not easy to read. It's not easy to do, and you know, I think a lot of us, you go and look for all sorts of information, and then you may still end up with, well, what does it say? Like, you know, it's like snap, crackle, pop. I hear you talking, but what are you saying?
But there's no way for us to understand all of it, and that's why hopefully we elect the right people who are going to be keeping an eye on that and doing, you know,
Yes.
some of those things.
No, and I agree with you. I think there's probably now, if as a charter, like if that's the one product that we're looking at to change, it might just not be the appropriate place to make that change.
Right.
So I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, but would love to hear feedback from, I believe we've lost Michael New, but if any of the other three on the call, Michael, Sandra, or Norma, have any feedback before we vote to actually simply table this.
Yeah, Kim, I'd like to think. What I think, and I listened, I've heard everything for all the meetings last week or so. I get really upset when people start thinking what other people should do. And I understand that it's a taxpayer's responsibility to know what's going on. But I'm not taking the responsibility away, but I'm saying as a family, just being in town, when I had 4 children and 3 jobs and all the other organizations I belonged to that were related to my children, like trying to run Girl Scouts and so on, I didn't even have more than 4 hours a day to sleep. There was no way that I could have been looking for any more information. And there's many parents, I know people that have lots of time and whatever. But I'm saying that there are many times that many people that I do know and they don't have more than 5 minutes to look up information. So, but I thought your idea or ours was to give a very short synopsis, and maybe it got to be lengthy, but I think that we are going to have to table it because I don't know who's going to run a short synopsis and put it. It's not even in the newspaper. Most people don't even get papers today. We get 2. That's how I find things out quickly. I have to put my phone down sometime.
So I think just based on this discussion, whether or not we agree with the intent of what we were putting forward or not, the charter is not the appropriate location, at least at this point. Possibly if this document's created and find it beneficial, similar to the public comment, it could be solidified into the charter. But right now, I'm asking if anyone would like to make a motion to table 4.07 and not represent it to, oh, Norma, did you have something to say before I make a motion?
I'll make the motion
Oh.
to table.
So we're tabling it to not put forward to the council again at their next.
Exactly. I think it needs more work.
Okay. So Norma makes that motion. Does anyone second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Everyone seconded, but I think I heard Sandra first. So I move to table the motion. Mike Brill,
Yes.
Claire Murray,
Yes.
Norma Smith,
Yes.
Sandra Rostal,
Yes.
and Michael New. And I apologize. I know
I'm
you.
gonna have to abstain because I don't.
You're no. That's
Yeah, I just.
Michael New abstains. So the motion passes. The tabling of the motion passes. So we're moving on to section 5.03 pertaining to the acting town manager. You know, I do agree with Deb that in making changes is also a good time to clean things up. And section 5.03. Dave, if you could please read the new language and then we can discuss.
Sure, thank you. So based on the comments from the town council and trying to address basically two things. One, that search process was not sufficiently defined in the mind of some of the council, and it really, I think, lends itself to a varied definition. So in light of what the council is doing, and in light of what this committee had discussed in this regard, I had reworked the language, and with the chair's permission, I will read the new language, and I'll try to explain what that is intended to address. So the new language reads as follows. In the event of a search process for replacing the town manager, the town council shall have the right to extend the appointment of an acting town manager appointed pursuant to this section for 6 months at a time, provided the council is engaged in a search to hire a new town manager, either directly or through a duly constituted subcommittee or through the engagement of the contracted services of a recruiter. So it takes the concept that this committee had talked about and that the town council had talked about, which is being able to extend the appointment of an acting town manager who is appointed pursuant to this section for 6 months at a time. That is what the council is currently doing. What I added to try to clarify what a search is, there can only be a search to find a replacement town manager, or the search to hire a new town manager can only be done in a certain number of ways. It can either be done by the council itself, which this council is not doing. It could be done through a duly constituted subcommittee appointed by the council to undertake the search. This council is not doing that. Or it could be a search to hire that is based on the engagement of the contracted services of a recruiter. And that is what this council is doing. So the council is relying on the services of a recruiter. The recruiter is bringing back information on various candidates to the town council, and the town council, as is their power and authority and prerogative under the charter, is evaluating and trying to determine a selection process for hiring a town manager. I removed reference to an interim town manager from what was previously included, and I think this language is consistent with the remaining portion of 5.03, and it does the two thing. It does the one thing that I think the council comments on July 20th were looking to do, which is provide some definition to the search process. So we're not talking about an active search. We're not talking. It's a search to hire, and the search is conducted either directly by the council through a subcommittee or a recruiter. So so the council has to be doing one of those, employing one of those three methods. I don't think there is any other method to employ, frankly. And I clarified that it's a search to hire a new town manager. So I think these amendments, if they meet with the approval of the committee, at least addresses what were expressed as concerns at the council meeting. I think that's the best we can do.
Okay. I mean, I would say it's still important to take out the 180 days, as that is not how we are currently doing this. So to have something actually solidified in the charter and have it not be our modus operandi seems just poor form. Also, Dave, does the town council understand that these three methods of active search are the only three? So basically you are solidifying that what we mean by active search is utilizing one of these three methods.
Yes, so the language that was previously in this section, and just for reference, I'm gonna call it out. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so we had we had previously used, or I had previously used the language for a permanent replacement, and it was suggested that that should be changed to hire. And we are, just to confirm, Madam Chair, we are striking no interim appointment shall last more than 180 days. We are striking that language. And frankly, it was, so we are striking that language. The word interim does not appear in this section at all. And we had previously used the word active search, and I've changed that to engaged in a search, and then the three methods of searching. Either the council does it directly, the council appoints a subcommittee, or the council hires a recruiter. And I use the word recruiter rather than headhunter because I thought it meant the same thing but sounded better in a charter.
Any other feedback on these changes to 5.03?
Yeah, I would just think that the recruiter could have, you know, after like 6 months already suggested a couple of things instead of waiting all this time.
Agreed, but so I would hope that we could do this much, but the recruiter could do more, but I don't know if that's what the amendment is asking for. It's just stating as long as we have that recruiter on retainer, that they are conducting the search. And that way you can keep extending the acting town manager. Did you have something you wanted to say? I noticed you've come back into view.
The only thing I would add to that is the recruiting company did, right from the beginning, he listed the biggest issues facing our town, and the search for this was the charter limitations. And that's been the #1 cause of, in his mind, and I think even in several of the council members, that charter limitation is what's kept us from getting. We've had some really great candidates come forward, but they don't meet the charter. And without meeting the charter, they couldn't go any further. So he was acquiring the candidates, pushing them forward, but they're unable to move forward in the system because they don't meet the charter. And there was no way that the council could even, they didn't even bother hearing them because they couldn't deal with them and they couldn't do anything with them if they got them. So the one we've got, he's been working diligently in well over 2 years, and he has put forward a substantial number. So, but he's been on top of this right from the start. He's been constantly updating myself on this, and so he does do it. I mean, that's required as part of the contract. So I just want everybody to understand that he's not just sitting there and just hoping someone comes forward.
Ed, how did we get managers in the past so easily?
This the prior town manager was the first manager that was ever hired under this new protocol that was changed in the charter, the more restrictive requirements. Prior to that, they never had those, and that was done. And if technically, if you go back and look, there may even been a question on whether or not the prior had all of the 5 years as necessary. So I mean, it's just that's why that was only one time prior that it's ever been used, and it came into a real big problem this time. Like I said, we've got letter after letter from our headhunter, the company, reiterating about the problem with the charter and the limitations of the charter and getting the quality candidates.
So we're going to change that now, though, right?
Correct. That is part of the council's recommendation. And
that still goes before the voters, right?
Yes.
Even though they're making that change. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very good move to do that, to bring it down and let the councils, most communities allow their councils a lot more leeway in who they bring forward. The limitations in the charter, and that's why I think with Mr. D'Agostino even explaining, the more you restrict things in the charter, the tougher it is for the councils to operate and do what needs to be done. Perfect example is what's going on. I'm pushing 2.5 years now as interim. That's nuts. I shouldn't be anywhere near this kind of time. But the restrictions in the charter have done that, and I just don't want to see it continue. So I'm glad that they're moving forward to change that now. But I just want everybody to understand the headhunting companies are doing a good job. It's just finding the candidates that match up with the qualifications as required.
So it's basically our rules that screwing them up.
Well, like I said, it was a one-shot deal. The prior, they were able to get one. This time, it's just, it didn't happen. So that's why they're bringing it back to what it used to be, or in the same area of the way it used to be, giving them more leeway in being able to bring it, not dumbing down the requirements. I don't feel as though it's dumbing down anything. It's just giving the council more leeway in making the decisions and making the choices. But that's my 2 cents.
All right. So as it's already been read by Attorney D'Agostino, can I hear a motion for putting the new language for 5.03 before the town council?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
Dave, I
Yes.
don't have, for some reason, I didn't get that in my packet, but does that wording say interim or acting? Because
it says
Joe,
acting.
Yeah,
We removed the word interim.
I know, but
there.
I have a feeling Mrs. Bacon has real issues with acting and interim. And
Which one is her choice? Because now there's just acting.
she likes interim because I believe, Ed, you know, because of the wording, it makes it sound temporary. I know that comes up all the time when notes are being read and stuff. She has an issue with the wording of acting and interim.
I believe,
acting, no, go ahead, Ed.
Bacon's issue is not so much acting versus interim, but being consistent in whatever is being put forward. I believe, and I'm not speaking for her.
Okay.
I believe
That's what my understanding was based on her comments from Monday evening, because
Okay.
when she
That's fine.
commented on that provision, I had my notes with me, and I ended up striking the word interim
Okay.
based directly on what she had said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know it comes up a lot, and I'm not sure which way, but I know that it comes up a lot at the town council meetings.
And I think, frankly, just to interject, this particular section is named acting, and that's the intent, because there is I know we talked about this earlier, probably, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, but there's a couple of different concepts here. There's someone who's appointed as an acting during a period of temporary absence or disability. And then there's the appointment such as Mr. Warzika's appointment that is acting while a search is taking place to hire a replacement. So both of them are acting. For example, Mr. Warzika, I don't know if he has, but he might take a vacation. And during that vacation, if he's not available, it's appropriate to appoint an acting to cover for Mr. Warzika's absence, even though he too is acting.
Yeah. No, I get it all. I just knew that comes up a lot. So if it's just the consistency in wording, then fine.
I think we've addressed it in terms of the language being used.
Yeah.
Dave, what's a vacation?
Yeah, I don't know either, Ed.
Give it a year. Give it a year. Michael New, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to confirm the same thing. That's the right wording. I mean, acting is what everybody uses in industry. It's what everybody understands today. So acting is correct.
Perfect. So hopefully we've covered all of those bases. We've both clarified what we mean by search, the search process, and we've made it so that all the language is consistent as far as acting town manager. Will someone make yes, Mr. New?
Yep, so moved. So moved as presented.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, so Mr. New made the motion, Mr. Brault seconded the motion. I vote to move forward with this language. Mr. Brault.
Yes.
Claire Murray.
Yes.
Norma Smith. Norma Smith.
Yes.
Sandra Restall.
Yes.
And Michael New.
Yes.
Okay. We will be putting this before the council, 5.03 for acting town manager under the new language. Okay, moving on to 5.04. This is also powers and duties. We had chosen to table this issue as it relates to the school committee Does anyone have any feedback in relation to the town manager? We do have the quarterly basis language in here. David, if you wouldn't mind reading that language.
So, Madam Chair, I included language. There was some degree of discussion from the council at the meeting on July 20th, and based on that, I think that the council favors a report. Obviously, the manager is making reports on a regular basis, so this is a little bit also like we discussed with Section 4.07. However, the manager is a chartered provision, so the sense was that this report should be quarterly. I have edited that accordingly, and Councilor Dixon suggested rather than mandating what the report include, that we use the language which may include, and to give a series of examples. The examples have not changed dramatically. I've just tried to narrow them. So it now reads, prepare and submit to the town council on a quarterly basis a written report on the operational status of the town, which may include matters of community interest, updates from town departments, reports on fiscal status of capital and other projects, and future development plans important to the community interest. This report shall be read and presented by the town manager at a council meeting. That was the other thing that came up. Again, the value of having the report, but also getting the report out to the public, to the taxpayers. And so, given that it's quarterly, given that this report would be somewhat substantive, and as Mr. New had previously discussed, putting together perhaps a spreadsheet from which quarterly there could be regular updates, and the intention that the report be read and presented at a council meeting. So I think I've included both the original intent of this committee as well as the comments and suggestions made by the town council, and I subject to what else this committee may decide, I think we've got it in as good a situation as we can.
Any feedback as it relates to 5.04 and the new language? Does anyone feel that this is inappropriate or should not be put before the town council? This is the first time we've had
Quiet.
no discussion.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's a management procedure, and maybe doesn't belong in the charter. I don't know. I know we had a lot of discussion on it earlier. My intent really for this was to streamline and help, the council do things quicker, but get good information out to the public.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel that. Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't let you finish. I apologize.
No, I just mixed emotions at this point.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's information I want put out there in an understandable way. I still desire the same thing, but if it wasn't appropriate for the school committee, where I know other members of this board who can't be here today felt that was even more important because of the fact that it takes up a larger percentage of our budget, to have it mandated for the town manager to consolidate everything, but allow the school committee to put it in their rules and regs. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Could it go in rules and regs here too?
I agree.
So Ed quietly gave his feedback. So yeah, that would be my take on it, that if we have decided to table this for the school committee, for the same reasoning, that it's already done in some form or another, and it could be changed in their rules and regulations, should we also table this for the town council?
I believe
think so.
we should.
Okay, so I make a motion, I think I can make it on my own, to table section 5.04, and as it doesn't really relate to the town charter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael New seconds that. So all in favor of tabling this and not representing it to the town council? I am in favor of that. Michael Brawl,
Yes.
Claire Murray,
Yes.
Norma Smith. Was that a yes, Norma? I can't hear, but nod your head or shake your head. That's a yes from Norma. Sandra Vestal
Yes.
and Michael New.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to table 5.04. And we can move on to E, which is section 14.3 regarding public comment at boards and commissions. Editing this in the same way we edited public comment for the town council. If we could have you read the new comment, Dave, and comment.
Yes, so again, this is consistent, trying to get parity with section 3.15. So to that end, we have clarified that this is a public comment requirement for all boards and commissions established under the town charter. So it reads, in order to afford the greatest level of public participation in the business of the town of Coventrty, all boards and commissions established pursuant to the town charter, except any meeting convened solely for executive session purposes, shall have on the agenda a provision and opportunity for public comment. And just to clarify, again, this is not part of the amendment, but this is informational to clarify which committees and boards and commissions this refers to. It would refer to the Charter Review Committee. Obviously, you know, as participants here, you have always included public comment at the chair's suggestion. The Citizens Advisory Committee, and you'll recall that's established by the town manager. The Conservation Commission, the Code Review Committee, Parks and Recreation Committee, Zoning Board of Review, the Planning Commission, Friends of Human Services, and Board of Assessment Review. I would like to also add that during the town council meeting, there was a question as to whether public comment would be appropriate at, and one example was the Board of Assessment Review. Upon reflection, I think that this committee, and I'd like to make sure that you agree with this, but that this committee's intention is to allow the greatest level of public participation, engagement, and transparency, so that the Board of Assessment Review, which deals with hearing taxpayer appeals of tax assessments, is the type of board that people may want to come and make public comment on, because it deals with taxation, it deals with you know, consideration of giving someone or a category of taxpayers relief or not. Again, I look at it the same way with regards to the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Review. Obviously, and we've discussed this in the past, those two groups have, as a matter of their regular business, public hearings and public informational meetings where public comment is sort of built into specific projects. But at the same time, there is business conducted by the commission and the zoning board that, you know, may benefit from, or the public may benefit from the opportunity for public comment there. I think the same thing with the Conservation Commission, the Code Review Committee, and the Economic Development Committee, and the Parks and Recreation Committee. I think all of those are different, you know, they're engaged in different directives and prerogatives that I think the public ought to have the right to participate in. And again, that's not, I'm not saying that's my opinion. I think that's the opinion of this committee, and I've tried to express it by identifying those specific boards and commissions.
No, I agree that these are things that we would like to have public comment be an option in. I don't think there's any place where I would say public comment would not be. Any member of the public who would want to comment at one of these meetings, I think should have the opportunity to. Just so that I have a better understanding, the school committee does not fall into the definition of, what's the wording here?
Of boards and commissions.
Of boards and commissions established pursuant.
So the school committee is a separate body politic that is established pursuant to the charter, but it's it really is its own body politic. And not to go down a rabbit hole on this, but a school committee is really an agent of the General Assembly at the end of the day because of how Title 16 pertaining to education works. Certainly they're elected locally through a local election process, but the school committee's job is really to promulgate the rules, regulations that are established by the General Assembly through Article 16. So they're a body politic as well. So yes, they're under the charter, but they're not the boards and commissions that are contemplated by this section.
Yep, okay. Any discussion on 14.3? I think we've lost Mr. New again. It seems like people are comfortable with moving section 14.3 forward under the same language as we moved section 3.15 forward. Do I hear a motion to put forth section 14.3 to the town council as read by Attorney D'Agostino?
Yes.
I believe Claire made the motion. Can I get a second? Is that you, Sandra?
I'll second it.
Okay, Sandy seconds the motion. I agree. I'm in favor of putting that forward to the town council. Michael Brault?
Yes.
Claire Murray?
Yes.
Norma Smith?
Yes.
And Sandra Rostal?
Yes.
Okay, Michael New's no longer on the call. I believe that that brings us through all of the sections that we were going to discuss. Did anyone feel there was a section that we should have discussed? And I don't know if, I know that there are some that we chose not to move forward with, but I do feel perhaps, Norma, I agree with you, we should move forward with the, go ahead, Norma.
The town historian, I didn't get anything on that in the packet. There were two that have said that the idea, they just didn't like the wording. Are we skipping that or?
We can add that as part of the discussion under 4.4 recommendations to include. Frankly, I'm trying to find my notes as to why that did not get revised. My note, and I do agree with you, Norma. I think one of the concerns that that I guess I had was the council's comments on Monday evening related to sort of the mechanics of how the historian would provide reports. We wrote it that prior to investing, renovating, purchasing, and demolishing any historic property or structure, the historian shall present a report on the significance. I think what happened, quite frankly, is that the council's comments were, well, you know, what if we couldn't get a report in time? And frankly, those comments related to, it sort of ballooned these seemingly simple provisions to have a rather, it sort of made it not simple. And I don't, and that's an oversimplification, but the questions that had come up were, what do we do? Is the historian report mandatory? What if we don't get a report? Will the historian's report in any way constrain council action on any of these items? And I think there are ways that we could tweak this section. I based on the comments of the council, I hadn't put any together, and I apologize for that.
I'm only saying it because there were two that said they liked the idea, but it was the wording.
Right.
So it wasn't so much against it.
No, and I understand that. I think the wording and the wording had to do with how the role of the historian would work with regards to council action. And I could put something in there that says that leave the language the way it is, but the council, the historian's report shall be non-binding. That's something that could be added. Again, I think the intent was to have input on council decisions relating to historic property or structures. The council's comments related to more, well, what is the, I don't want to say value, but what is the import? What happens if the historian recommends a course of action that is, let's say, against what the council would otherwise be looking to do, and can the historian hold up the council action? That's really what I was struggling with.
Can I just explain something?
Sure.
And I'm going to use the Byron Reed building as my example because this has been ongoing for 10 years, and we've tried to come up with a plan to save it. And now, okay, it's too far gone. I doubt it can't be saved. But I would like to see certain procedures that if there's anything of historic significance within a building, that can maybe be extracted. If, keep something. If you can't keep the building, it's just, we throw our history away. And this is important to me. I know it's not important to everybody, but to me, we need to recognize our history and what we should be proud of, we should be proud of. That building, that particular building, was state of the art for the time in New England. So it had some importance. So if it can't be saved, can there be something saved? Should there be a process to see what's in there? There's another building, a little mill house. So there's things in that house that I think should be salvaged. It's going to come down. I just need, to me, it's important. Maybe not to anybody else, but to me, it's important. Other communities use to bring money into town. I think we could do that too. I mean, we don't have the breakers, but we've got something in this town, and it should be used, not just discarded. And I'm going to say one more thing that I haven't told anybody. When the Historic District Commission started, which is now the Historic Preservation Commission, that took a while to get done. And after it was established, I was told by a town council member that they only did it to humor us, that we wouldn't be able to do anything. I am. Don't make a
If I may, I don't think the council disagrees with anything that you said, Norma. I think what you just mentioned, however, is at the crux of the problem with, or the crux of the issue with trying to formulate an appropriate charter provision regarding this. Certain procedures related to what is saved, how it is saved, who is then going to be responsible for saving these important historic either buildings or features within buildings or things of that nature. And I think the council's concern and my struggle was how to set up. It's great to have a town historian position. I think everybody would universally support that. I think the problem became defining the rules and regulations under which the historian operates. And frankly, I think it's a much bigger undertaking than we have time for in this section, only because of those procedures. And again, how, whether the historian would have the ability to actually step in front of a council decision. For example, if a building were deemed dangerous, the council has an obligation to act. Within that context, what is the historian's role in preserving those historical features, and how does the historian then interact with what the council's trying to do? I think this is a quintessential example of a great charter provision, a great position in town, and the devil is in the details. And unfortunately, the position is fraught with details. How are these things going to actually be processed? Just my comments.
Claire, can I make a comment?
Please do.
Okay.
Hey, Claire,
I was wondering what happened to this when we got all our information in our agenda. So I'm glad Norma, I was going to ask something. I wanted to ask that question too. I think what Dave's saying about all the details and how this person would operate, that's important. And I believe that has to be done. So I would guess for another time. But what I got out of the meeting the other night is the council kept saying, I don't think they understood what we had talked about, the relationship between a historian, a town historian as a position, and then the committee, because they kept referring back to they didn't see why we needed that. But the whole idea of why we needed it is because the committee, it's not like they meet every month forever. The committee's just there. But if something came up, to get it all together and have meetings and everything and get the information out to them, it just seemed, our idea was that the town historian would start to work right away, and also would be researching and have the background on things. And I don't know, that was our idea or our intent, but I think the details of how that, they kept saying that they should just be a part, like they had a commission. But I think what we wanted was not just a commission, but somebody who would be just responsible all the time and be ready to jump in. I don't know if somebody can clarify that. Does that help?
No, I think we all were in agreement on why this position was important. I feel like where Dave is running into an issue is there's more than just a little word changing. The rest of them, it was really semantic, and we were able to make those changes in a relatively easy way without changing our intent. I think with this one, we need to get a lot more into the minutia, perhaps. Everything else we're trying to make simpler, and I think this we're trying to add more to, which makes it a little harder due to the timeline we're on. But we don't disagree, Norma, that it is important that this person gets to report to the council, and I think what you're concerned about is important because you can do that position in order to work as a committee. But instead, we want to make sure that the historical nature of our buildings and our land is taken into account.
Yes.
Correct?
So if we just can, well, but whoever, another commission can work on it some more, I hope we will come forth with that in time.
And I will say, Norma, as far as Facebook goes, you guys are doing a great job on the commission of putting a lot more information out there. And I don't know if it's just because I'm looking for it, but I'm seeing a lot more than. Go ahead, Norma.
Not so much the commission. I do put things once in a while on the commission page, but what I'm doing right now, we're trying to reactivate the Coventrty Historical Society. So that what you're seeing is more Coventrty Historical Society that I'm posting now. which is fine. I just want the word out. People need to know about their town. And as far as this is concerned, if it needs more work, then we can table it. I just don't want it getting lost.
Yes.
Because I know the commission tries, but you have to follow all these rules. I'm trying to figure out the rules and guidelines because everything is more complicated than how I think. I think common sense, and I go through my. I get this information on my own anyway, and I still can do this and stick it in there here and there, I suppose, without it being a town historian. And I don't even see myself as a historian. I just see the potential this town has, and it seems to get lost, and people see it because they get bogged down by a lot of the other things, and they are serious issues, but this is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
So I think that even though we would like this to be taken up by a future charter committee, and even before that, I think it's something, possibly the town council could move forward with being more, giving more recognition to the commission we already have in place. But I make a motion to, well, and I don't know if we have to make any motions because it's not on the agenda.
You don't have to make a motion. This is really included in the discussion of what will be presented Tuesday evening.
Okay.
Okay.
So, that was put forward. There were some other amendments that weren't discussed today. Did anyone feel there was one that wasn't discussed that we should give more thought to?
Just a question for Dave. That residency rule, was that mostly made for unions?
Yes, the short answer is yes. The residency, so I'll address that this way, and then I'd like just to make one more comment. So the most city and town charters, when they were passed, had a requirement that if you worked for the city or town, you had to live in the city or town. And then in the late 80s, there was a movement that was primarily driven by unions, police, fire, teachers, especially, to override and nullify those charter provisions, not just in Coventrty, but in all charters, as being unconstitutional because it restricted where someone could live. And frankly, for a number of individuals who were teachers, firefighters, police at that time, even city DPW workers, a lot of those individuals, would keep their parents' home address, let's say in Providence, when they actually lived in Foster or Coventrty or Situate, and that was sort of fraught with problems. But generally speaking, that's the movement, and it was the collective bargaining and the labor organizations that pushed for those changes. And that's why you see, quite frankly, that's why you see town managers, some finance directors, depends on if they're appointed or not, but there are residency requirements for those what I would call high level CEO type positions. And just so the committee is aware, the council did propose an amendment to 5.01, which does include reference to the state law on residency, and that will be considered. That will be on the ballot in November. So voters in town will have a chance to weigh in on the qualifications for town manager, among other things.
All right, good.
Any other questions on anything that we didn't put forward to vote today? All right. I will ask, will I be putting forth the recommendations again on Tuesday? Is that procedure?
Yes, that is your role and responsibility as chair.
Fantastic.
Kim, have you read the whole charter by now?
I've glossed through it. No, I actually had read the charter back in January or February when we first were put together.
Wasn't that one of the questions at the council meeting?
No, I was asked if I'd read all the rules and regulations, but that's and I had not.
At least you answered it honestly.
I try not to lie to people if I can help it. So, Steve, can I just have you go over just to set in stone for me as I move forward to present these? Which of our amendments decided to put forth again?
Sure. So for consideration on Tuesday's at Tuesday's meeting are the and these are my words, but the slimmed down amendments to 3.01 and 4.01 as it relates to term limits. Charter section 3.15. Charter section 5.03. And charter section 14.30. And for clarity, we are not, this committee is not advancing section 4.07 or section 5.04 or section 14.40.
Okay. Ed, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, Dave, which ones are moving forward?
Excuse me, 3.01 and 4.01, 3.15, 5.03, and 14.30. There are more on Tuesday's agenda because we didn't know what was going to happen at this meeting. So there are a couple that are not going to be addressed.
No, that's what I was just checking to make sure that we did cover the ones that are going to be on there.
We had to put everything on there because on the council agenda, because that agenda had to be posted yesterday. Obviously, part of the chair's comments will refine what is and isn't covered.
And if I might ask, this, as soon as you have this finalized and written up, if you could get it to me so I can get it to the council.
I'm going to get it to. I'm going to get it to. Yeah, I'm going to get it to you in the chair later today.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion about July 27th meeting?
It's the 28th.
Oh, it says 27th on.
Oh yes, you know, because 27th is Monday, but they're actually meeting Tuesday the 28th.
Yep. Any more discussion?
Claire, what time? What time Tuesday? What time?
Does it start at 6? I don't have the agenda in front of me.
It does start at 6 p.m.
We're at the
And I believe there is an executive session. So it'll probably the open session will begin at 6:30, and so everybody should be logged on as of 6:30.
We are at the end of this agenda, I believe, if they keep the agenda in the same order.
Yes.
So everyone grab your popcorn, sit and enjoy a town council meeting. And Mike, Brawl, you had raised your hand as well. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm gonna sign off. I had a prior commitment and he's waiting for me outside, so.
I think that's okay. We'll open up to public comment and we will speak for you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. See you too.
Bye, Mike.
Sounds good. And Ed, if you could see if there are any hands raised as far as public comment goes.
At this point, there are 5 attendees and no one has their hand raised, but if we give them a minute or so, it's up to you.
Sure.
And as I say that, we have a Mrs. Ann Dixon is looking to make comment. So I'm going to bring Mrs. Dixon in. Mrs. Dixon, if you might State your name, spell it, please, and also your address for the record.
Ann Dixon, Dickson, 141 Perry Hill Road, Coventrty. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to those members who are on the Charter Review Commission. I appreciate all the work that you have had, especially having to come together at this last meeting to, this last date to have a meeting. I just like to mention that it's somewhat ironic that your group is proposing that there be feedback before every vote. And I have waited 1 hour and 41 minutes now to give some feedback, and I have been unable to do so. So I'm one of the people who may benefit from your proposal. What I wanted to say initially is that when the council voted, there were only 4 members there. And one of the votes was 2-2, and it failed because there was not a majority. So if I had been presented at the beginning of the meeting, I would have mentioned that because there were only 4 people, that you might want to consider those amendments that maybe had not passed, but might have had a chance of passing had there been a full complement of people. So I would, it's a little too late to do that, but I just wanted to mention that to you. The other thing, just in passing, is that there are actually going to be 2 amendments before the council. One is to eliminate the town financial meeting and the referendum, and the other amendment is to eliminate the town financial meeting, but keep the referendum with a petitioning process available between the hearings and the council vote and the referendum. So I mentioned that there are actually 2 amendments before the council. I am a little disappointed that we don't have any teeth in the school committee report to the town. I was the person who originally, 7 years ago, when I got on the school committee, asked for the school committee to give a report to the town council because I felt that it would help improve communications. And what it got down to was just a presentation of all the good stuff, the nice stuff that was happening. And I'm happy that Mrs. Murray did mention the fact that the school committee did have a computer hack. And a few days later, it gave a report to the town council at its normal time and never mentioned the computer hack. I actually read about that in the Coventrty patch. So I do think that the school committee report, which is given, needs to have some more teeth in it. I don't think that the school committee felt that that was necessary because I listened to the school committee meeting, but I do believe that it helps communicate better. They do present financial reports, etc., but that is between the town manager and the superintendent and the financial people, and it really doesn't get before the voters or even before the town council on a timely basis. So I would have liked to have seen that done. As far as term limits are concerned, it's interesting. The school committee is completely in favor of term limits, but the town council isn't. But 2 of the town council members are definitely against setting term limits, but the 3rd person was not there. So that vote may have been completely different based on a full complement of people voting. So I just want to mention that, but it would be nice to be able to give some feedback before every vote. Thank you.
Touche. I did notice the irony of that as well, Dr. Dixon. And I am hoping that in keeping public comment as part of, if that gets voted to move before the voters, that some town council members do decide to have it before voting. I feel it could be really beneficial to start insights into things. Like you said, your input is truly relevant and could have helped on some decision making. I do believe that the tide amendment is going to be proposed with some changes in language. So I'm glad that we are going to be moving forward with that. And I just hope that on Tuesday, the councilors remember that they're not voting to change the charter. They're voting to ask the community if they'd like to change the charter. So I think it's an important difference. You're not voting to say there are going to be term limits. You're voting to say, let's ask the constituents of Coventrty if they'd like term limits. So, I hope that differentiation is really noted by even those who wouldn't support it. Even with the example you gave of the financial town meeting, it's kind of ironic that only that 8% of people who votes are probably going to vote on whether or not they should be allowed to. Just something to think about as we decide what to put on the ballot. And thank you for your input at all these meetings. Ed, anyone else who, I see Anne has disconnected, so I believe she's all done. And if anyone else has their hand up.
I currently have no one's hand raised at this time, and I know two of the people that are listed are town employees, so I don't think they've got any.
Well, unless they have to be on here, we still appreciate their attendance.
Yep, I agree. I just wish
Um,
we had more attendance on all of these.
I fully agree with you. So if no one has their hand raised, then public comment is complete, and I motion to adjourn this meeting and feel your Saturday back. Anyone second?
So moved.
Michael New. I'm just going to do a hand raise on this one. All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Have a good Saturday. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.